Hi, teammates. My name is Sean J. McCall, and as usual, I am your host for the Eurostep. And this is the earliest I've ever done a Eurostep, but that has a good reason because my guest is a busy pro, and I'm on vacation, so I got time in the morning. Normally, I'm at work right now. Before we start, make sure in the comment section if you want to ask a question that everybody will see. It'll pop up for everybody to see. You can throw it in there, and I'll try to get it in. Also, the question mark with the speech bubble around it. If you throw it in there, only I see it, and I check that as soon as something comes up, and I will ask your question. It could be to something I'm already asking, but if you feel the need during the live, then please do throw a question in there. So I'm going to get Trey right in. I want to get started. I don't want to waste any time. So I am going to invite Trey in. And then we can get started. Yes.
How's it going, Sean?
Good morning, moin.
Moin, moin.
Moin, moin. Grüße an Oldenburg. Right?
Yep.
My old place of work. Trey, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate you getting up this morning and jumping on here with me and talking to my teammates and those who will soon be teammates. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Little tough one last night.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, the wake up's a little tough today. You gotta face your reality bright and early, but
Right.
it's all right.
You guys have like practice this morning or anything, like walkthrough or something like that?
No, normally like our coach is really consistent with giving us like complete day off the next day. But yeah, I got a tattoo appointment later today that I gotta go to. So.
Okay. So yeah, you mentioned it was a tough one last night. What happened last night? Was that at home or away?
It was a home game. It's only our second home game we've dropped, and it's against a team that they run a very similar system to us. And it's like if we don't show up, our team's like talented, but not like crazy talented. So if we don't show up, any team in the BBL can get you and get you bad if the momentum really shifts. So it's kind of just what happened.
One of those games.
One of those ones for sure.
Yeah. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. The season is too long. You guys got a lot of games left. Let it go, man. So we're gonna get started, man. Before we start, make sure what I try to do. I have a set questions, but what I really want it to be is more like a conversation and a me ask you questions kind of thing. And so you speak your piece, and then we'll just have a good show, man. I appreciate you coming.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's funny, before we start though, I always laugh because in our film room there's a picture on the wall, I think of like Oldenburg 0304. You guys always laugh. I see Sean McCall there with his
Is it the one where I'm kind of like laying on the ground with the ball? Oh my God. That's the worst poster I've ever. I'm so extra, man. I'm so fucking extra.
You're laying on the ball and your shorts are down to your shin, bro. I'm always laughing.
Hey, do me a favor, and next time you're in the room, take a picture with your phone and send it to me.
Okay, I got it.
So I can show the people how extra I am.
I got it.
So now that we got that out of the way, so actually your name is Thomas. Where did the name Trey come from? Where did the nickname Trey come from?
I don't know. Like kind of growing up, I'm Thomas Bruce Drechsel the third, and Trey means three, and I don't know. That's kind of like the nickname. Like if someone were to call. If you're the second, they call you Junior or something.
Right.
It was just from an early age, and from there on, I still remember, or not remember, my parents always remind me that we were crossing the border up into Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Like the border agent will ask the kid kind of like, oh, like, is your name, like, is this Thomas? And I just didn't respond, and that was a little awkward for everybody. So.
Thought you were getting kidnapped?
Yeah, exactly.
What I find fascinating about your story is that you didn't play big time D1. You weren't a big time D1 guy. I also wasn't a big time D1 guy. But you're over here in your third season. You're doing what you love to do. You're getting paid for it. You're traveling the world. And a lot of people that I consult with or ask me about coming overseas, they always ask like, hey, I'm not a big D1 guy. I'm an NAIA guy, or I'm a D2 guy. I'm a D3 guy or girl. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, because guys like you, guys like me, give guys and girls back home hope that are in a smaller school. You know, that they can still get overseas and make a considerable amount of money, or even if they're not making a considerable amount of money, they can live their dream, right? And so, can you tell a little bit about your background? You started out at Western Washington D2,
Yeah,
and,
yeah. So basically,
and then you moved on to Grand Canyon. Can you tell a little bit about your college story?
yeah, basically, so it's actually funny. I've had a lot of injuries in my career, and so my senior year or junior year of high school, normally when you get recruited and stuff, I had a pretty gruesome injury in that first recruiting period, and so going into college or going into my senior year of high school, I had zero offers, and then I played a little AAU that summer. Had a good senior season of high school basketball. Had a couple NAIA schools, some small D2s. Ended up walking on to Western
Really?
Washington. It's a Division II, but they had won the national championship like three years earlier. So that's kind of what I was attracted to. They're a really high level Division II program.
Right.
Went there, got I redshirted, then got injured my first and second year, same injury. And kind of my junior years when things kind of started to come together, kind of a testament to pushing through setbacks and understanding that, you know, eventually stuff will pay off. And junior year was my first year fully healthy throughout the whole year. Had a great year. The team was special too. We had Dalton Hamas, who's now plays for Baskonia.
Yeah.
We had four other guys that ended up playing professional basketball. So like it was a abnormally talented Division II team. From there, I felt that I wanted to try the Division I thing. I kind of got in. I was into the allure of playing Division I basketball.
Right.
You know, as a kid. And I think, so I transferred up to Grand Canyon University. It honestly, like level wise, the jump wasn't that big, but pressure, expectations, how serious everything was, just kind of like I wasn't ready for. Yeah, just I wasn't ready for the jump and didn't necessarily have a great senior year. But if I were to do it again, I would value playing more. I would value role more than kind of what people see on the outside. Oh, you play Division I, you must be, you must be talented. And that's another thing I'd say about trying to play overseas too. I value role and opportunity a lot more than kind of optics. But yeah, so I ended up going there and didn't have a great senior year, right? And so again, like to other people trying to play basketball in Europe and stuff, like that your last year you play in college it's almost important in the resume, the bulk of the resume, because you need to be trending the right direction. So it was tough for me to find a job right after. Because
Wait, before you go on to finding your first job, let me go back a little bit. You mentioned that you had some pretty bad injuries and stuff. Do you think that the time when you were injured, what did you learn from yourself in that time that you were injured about yourself that you kind of attribute to now as a professional?
Yeah, I think for me it just gave me perspective that basketball isn't everything. And it's in a weird way that makes you value it a lot more because it's treated more as a privilege instead of like a right. And getting it taken away from you just kind of makes you realize how fleeting the game is. It's like it's rare to get to play basketball. It's not like not everybody gets to go play basketball. And so every time I got injured, I think it ignited that fire in me that this game is so temporary. And I think that's what it changed, like kind of the style that I play of basketball. Like I'm not the prettiest basketball player. I play very intense. I'm not nonchalant. Like I'm very I play really hard, and I think that's what I learned from my injuries.
So when did you first start thinking about playing overseas? Was it while you were still at Western Washington, or was it when you were at Grand Canyon? When, like, the very first time you thought, I think that's something I want to do.
Yeah, I think I weirdly always had kind of this vision of playing overseas, and because for me the NBA or anything like that was always so
Or
beyond me. Like
right,
I've always kind of had a realistic perspective about things, and overseas basketball seemed a lot more like attainable and like a realistic goal.
did
So
you
I'm
know some people that played while
yeah,
you were in college? I mean, you mentioned that there's some people were on your team in Western Washington were playing overseas,
yeah,
but was that something that also influenced your decision that you knew some people that were over there as well?
yeah. The reason I went to Western too is they had a history of putting guys overseas. I think the first like 2 or 3 years before me, there was a guy each year, like the best
Wow,
player year kind of went.
wow,
That's more or less kind of how it goes, you know. Like if you're the best player on a winning team,
yeah,
like you'll get
no,
at a high enough level, you'll get at least some
right,
opportunity. So
yeah, that's dope, man.
mhm.
Um, I mean, like, it's right now playing overseas is a viable. It's sexy now.
Yeah,
It's a viable business decision for a lot of college athletes because, of course, we all know how hard it is to stick in an NBA roster. So people, of course, want to play somewhere, and playing overseas is now real sexy, especially because of the EuroLeague being broadcast everywhere now and things like that. It's changed over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years. Um, where when you first started thinking, okay, my senior year, I need to start thinking about going overseas. How did you get information
Mhm.
as far as the process? How did you know what to do, or did you know what to do? Was it more like trial and error, or did you kind of like investigate things a little bit?
So after, it's actually a really good question because I also get that question a lot from guys like, how do I do it?
Yeah,
Basically, how I started the process is I had a couple people in my like people messaging me on Facebook, Instagram, like agents. Like I don't know who, like agents, right? Some of them legit, some not. And through like in kind of like researching who was reaching out, I was like, okay, maybe like I had to find a criteria for what was like a valuable, like a good agent. You know what I'm saying? Or someone that I could maybe work
right.
with. I started that way, and then from there, I kind of like went a different direction because I wasn't feeling comfortable with any of the people I was talking to.
Right.
In terms of like, I don't know you. I would just like get a message, and that next thing I know, I'm on a phone call with someone across the world, and I was kind of like, it made me uncomfortable. So then I went the route through going through contacts I know
Yeah.
and who they would
Yeah.
recommend. And so what I
Very
did,
good.
reached out to my high school coach. He reached out to people in the basketball community and where I'm from, like kind of north of Seattle in the Seattle basketball community, and everyone was vouching for my now agent and will be my agent for as long as I'm playing Alvin Snow.
Mhm. I
Well,
know.
yeah, Snow. So
Um, when did you actually get in touch with Alvin? Like, was it, or did he contact you, or did that all come through your kind of
it
network?
kind of came from my high school coach. Reached out to him. I just got his number, and then I was like, "Hey, this is kind of what I did in college. Would you be interested in working with me?" And he's very selective in who he
Right,
works with. He wants a certain
right,
type of guy.
right,
So it was a situation where then that summer I worked out with him and his guys because he's based out of Seattle. So I was with them, Worldwide Sports Management, that whole summer, and then it was kind of like, it wasn't like a tryout, but it was like a, let's see if you
right.
fit the mold of our guys, because he's got a big belief that a certain type of person thrives overseas more than a certain type of player.
That's
And
a
I think,
very
and,
good point.
yeah, and I think so. And I kind of like related with that, and then we went from there.
That's that's pretty. That's one of the best things I've heard from an agent. That because it's so true. Because I tell this story all the time. I know far more guys that had way more talent than I did that couldn't make it over here for 1 year. I played 13 seasons. I know guys that just were mad good, but because they couldn't adapt or they had a personality that wouldn't let them be open to new things, new training methods,
Yeah.
coaches yelling at you, pressure, getting paid late,
Yeah.
all those kind of things, they couldn't last, you know, and that's one of the things that I always tell the people that I consult with, that I advise, that it's not just the basketball out here. I mean, that's pretty much why I named my book Same Name Different Game, because it's the same game we've all been playing since we were kids, but it's a different game at the same time. Like it's not just a round ball, you know. And there's so many things outside of basketball and that you have to get used to. And so that what Alvin told you that's really dope. I really appreciate that. I might have to steal that. I'm gonna hit him up and see if he copyrighted that, because I might have to steal that one.
Real quick, it was like really, I think my injury, going back to my injuries, I think that kind of is what manifested that character trait that thrives over here. And it's that ability to take a setback or deal with something crazy happening right in front of you and just maintain a level head and keep pushing forward. I think that's the number one defining character trait that like guys survive over here and start to make a career is like you roll with the punches. And I think you got to go through something in life that maybe where you're told you're not good enough, so that you can in those moments over here you can kind of figure a way out. So
I had that same kind of moment when I broke my leg my first year in. I broke my leg in a game, first year overseas. I think I was here 2.5 months, 2 months, and I broke my leg in a game. And I was lucky enough, to make a long story short, I was lucky enough that the team kept me, and they kept me for the next season as well. And but that's when the change happened in me. I wasn't planning on. I don't think I planned at that time, for sure not, to be here as long as I have been, for sure not. But that kind of changed my whole view, and I started to adapt more. I started to be more open, and I think that's one of those key traits, like you said, the ability to adapt. So before you got your first contract offer, what did you do, or how did your agent or anyone else, did anybody prepare you for what you were about to embark on? I mean, actually, no one can really prepare you until you're actually here, right? But is there anything that you did to try to prepare yourself for what you were about to embark on?
Yeah, so that summer, I still like talk with Alvin about it, that it was probably the most development I had in the shortest span, maybe in my career so far, because the way that Worldwide and like the agency set up the workouts is they were like, I'm with guys that are 8-year pros, that if I do something in this open run or in this workout that doesn't work, that doesn't translate overseas, they'll quickly be like, hey bro, that doesn't work, don't do that. And there's like a culture of everyone getting better and everyone getting on the same page in terms of mentality, style of play. Like we would run open gyms and we would do the crazy like European style stuff. We would play 2-on-2 full court. We would play 3-on-3 full court, no dribbles. And
no dribbles. I was just gonna say that.
and that summer, I'm like, yo, like what are we doing here? And it was me and another couple a little crop of rookies, and we were all like, dude, this is nuts. Like, and Alvin would have us pick the ball up full court in 5-on-5, dog the ball up and down, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I don't know. Like that was the first time I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. This isn't even basketball. This is way different. But it made the adjustment way smoother, because I'd already been introduced to some of the techniques that just the stylistic differences in basketball, especially.
So you got your first contract offer, or maybe not offer, but your first pro contract from in Serbia.
Yeah.
Was that directly, because I read somewhere that you went first to Partizan, and then they loaned you out. Is that true? How did that go
So
about?
initially my rookie year, I just signed with the affiliate of
Okay.
Partizan, Mlada Samoon, like still like my club, still for sure my club. Like, uh, but so I went to them first, and kind of the reason I signed there is the allure of them being affiliate of Partizan.
Right.
Maybe I can play well enough at this club. Like Partizan is looking at this team.
Right.
We had a couple young guys that were on like dual contracts, and so that was kind of the allure. But quickly, once I got there, you could see the difference in level between
Mhm.
Partizan and where I was at, and so
Mhm.
it seemed very unrealistic to ever get noticed by them.
Right.
Um, but after my rookie year, I like the second half of the season, especially once I figured it out and kind of got my footing, I started playing really, really well. And Partizan did notice me, and then then I signed a 3-year contract with
Mhm.
them. That summer, and it was like a situation when a club like Partizan offers you from where I was at, you say yes no matter what.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
it
Of
could have been
course.
8 years, and I was probably going.
Of
You know,
course. And but you didn't end up staying those full 3 years. What was the reason why you left Partizan?
so first year I got loaned back to that same club. Second year, they brought in Obradovic, legendary coach,
Right.
probably
Right.
greatest European coach of all
Yeah.
time. And they were up in the budget a bunch, and I was kind of one of those older contracts. When a team brings in a coach like that, he's going to have his guys,
Right. Yeah.
and especially a guy of his caliber. My resume, you can kind of see like your resume doesn't match up with the
Right.
other guys. So it's like, oh
Right.
yeah, like this doesn't make sense. And so
Right.
they were super super cool. They loaned me out to. They let me choose what team I get loaned out to, which
Cool.
was nice. And then this year in Oldenburg, Oldenburg bought me out from Partizan before I came here.
I mean, that's actually a pretty cool story that I don't think I've ever met an American-born player that was loaned out to other teams. That
Yeah.
usually happens with national players that get loaned out from Bayern Munich to a place, a
Yeah.
player, a young German in the Bayern Munich system gets loaned out to a place like Krausheim,
Mhm.
where he's going to get more minutes than of course the EuroLeague team. But an American that actually signs a contract somewhere and gets loaned out, I think I've never heard of that before. Have you?
Not really. It was a very unique situation. I was treated like one of their own, and it's because of like how much I dove into their culture and like, especially with Mlada Zamoon, like I was like doing everything. Like for the first like 3 months, I was the only American, so I really took it on myself to like experience the culture and be super respectful, and so I think me and Serbia, like our personalities and kind of our work ethic and a lot of the like character traits meshed really well. So
Mhm.
he treated me as one of their own, almost like I was a young Serbian kid. So it takes a lot of humility too to come from America and just like I was okay with being treated like a young player. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you think your resume translates and you're like, what do you mean? Like, I'm nice, like blah blah blah. You're starting from the
Yeah.
bottom, and I really embrace that in terms of like I still have that feeling like I don't deserve anything. I got to earn
You got to work
everything.
for
Yeah.
it. I mean, I think that's the problem with a lot of players who come overseas. A lot of American players, especially when they come overseas, because they think, "Oh, what I did in college. Look what I did in college. I deserve this." Or, nah, man.
No.
You are the low man on the totem pole, and you have to
Yeah.
prove this is very much a what have you done for me lately kind of thing. And what you did yesterday does not matter anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I can really appreciate that you really dove headfirst into it and you stayed humble. You work for everything that you're receiving, and that's an incredible personality trait, my man.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. College is funny because you put in all this work and expect like you're gonna get some big thing from it, but really it's just showing where you're gonna start, and you're gonna start in the bottom third no matter what. Like,
Yeah.
so maybe you're at the top of the bottom third, you're still starting at the bottom.
Do you have a welcome to overseas moment? Like where you were like, ooh, I am not in Kansas anymore, Toto. Like this is definitely a new
Uh,
world.
so this is tough. This still brings back a little like anxiety. But so my first week in Serbia, I remember I didn't have a car. I had to take the metro bus to practice, and I'm walking with I have a teammate from Senegal and a teammate from Mali. Neither of them really speak English,
Mhm.
and they're showing me the bus route. And 3 days in, I thought I could do it myself, and I took the wrong bus. And next thing I know, I'm in the middle of, you know, like east side of Belgrade, no idea where I'm at. Cell service doesn't work, and I had to like tap a lady walking by on the shoulder and like be like, "Do you speak English?" She said no. Had to go on her phone, use the translate. It was like one thing after another after another. Finally got the translator. Was able to call my assistant coach and I was like, "Hey, like, can you pick me up?" And he's like, "What do you mean pick you up? Like, figure it out." You know what I'm saying? Like, you're a grown adult. Like, we have practice right now. What are we talking about? And so that was my first like, wow, I'm really not at home. So
You're not the pampered athlete from college.
no.
None of that. Do you have a basketball welcome to overseas basketball moment?
Then what's crazy is then 2-3 days later, we had been doing double days for those first 5 days I got there. You know the Serbian culture. We were
Yeah,
practicing like
yeah,
5-6 hours,
yeah, yeah.
and it was the end of a 3-hour practice, the second practice of the day. The Americans don't get subs, and so like the Serbian,
Oh, you're working the whole
yeah,
time. Like,
exactly,
you get paid to work. Come
yeah, exactly, which is right. You get used to it, but they bring in a couple young kids, and I'm bringing the ball up. He's like pressing the ball like crazy,
on, crazy.
like
Mhm.
a
He's
maniac.
trying
End of
to
practice.
impress the coach. Let's
Yeah,
go.
exactly. And I'm like, oh, here we go. But right before he had checked in, the coach had basically pointed at the floor and like said something. I didn't know what it was. He in Serbian, he said like the floor is wet here, so be careful. I'm bringing the ball up. I go straight to that spot. You know what I'm saying? I go like of course, of course. And that's my knee slid out, and I tore my MCL like 5 days in. It's the kind of same situation you had with
Crazy.
breaking your leg. I tore my MCL 5 days in, and it was like I'm very blessed because normally that's like a death sentence. Like
Put a
get on out of here.
Band-Aid on it and send your ass home.
Exactly. And they were, and that's another reason I have a very soft spot for Serbia and for my club, my first club, because they took a chance on me, and now an injured kid, and I was able to. It was crazy too. I basically had to rehab in my apartment on my own, but that was my first like, oh boy, this is a business. You know what I'm saying? You got to really like take care of yourself out here. So.
Um, let's move on to. I know you played in Poland. Let me ask you a quick question about Poland. So you were a couple years in Serbia, then you go to Poland. Was there a big adjustment between playing styles in Serbia and then when you went over to Poland?
Um, Honestly, so the level was higher,
Mhm.
uh, but playing styles, I would actually say they're fairly similar.
Mhm.
Both have very rugged big men,
And
very
East
physical.
Bloc countries are kind of all like the
Yeah,
same. Yeah.
very physical.
Yes.
You're not gonna get a
Mhm.
lot of calls like before like off ball, so you can be really
Right.
physical off ball.
Right.
The pace was similar, but again, like when I was in Serbia, I wasn't playing for Partizan or
Right.
Red Star in
It's a
that.
different
Yeah,
level. It was
yeah.
a different level.
So, but comparatively, I'd say it's pretty similar. I'd actually say maybe Poland's a little bit slower too, a little bit slower, um, but stylistically very similar.
So then you move on to EVE Baskets Oldenburg. Yay, Oldenburg.
Yeah,
Um, totally basketball crazy city.
yeah, for
How,
sure.
how do you like it there?
This is for sure been my favorite experience I've had in my 4 years. like you said, crazy basketball town. There's the club itself is incredible,
Yeah.
like very respectful,
Professional.
like yes.
Money's on
Yeah,
time. Cars good. Apartment
money's early.
good. Yeah.
Money's early.
Yeah.
But and like with the coach that we have now, it's a very demanding program, and it's just been pushing me a lot, and it's been a nice mix of feeling comfortable enough because the club's taking care of you, but pushing yourself basketball wise like every day.
Right.
So it's
That's
been
the thing. That's the thing. What people don't realize about this professional sports thing overseas is if you're in a good club where everything is taken care of, your money, your car, the things that are important to players, um, and everything else around you is set. That leaves so much freedom for you to actually concentrate on what you're there to do. If you have to worry about your check being late, if you have to, you know, call all the time about your plumbing being messed up in your flat, or your hot water not working, that takes its toll on
yeah.
an athlete. It's just the way it is. We're all human. And a place like Oldenburg, I was lucky enough to play in Oldenburg. I think it was the first year that EWE started this sponsorship, or at least that they really put a lot of money in. So that year, we we had we had a crazy team. We had like no Germans. We had we, the rules were different, so it was as many EU players,
Oh,
right? So we had me with a passport. We had Jens Uwe with a passport. We had Sean Jackson with a passport. We had um, uh, um, Gary with a passport. We
like all
had,
Americans.
yeah, all Americans with passports. All Americans
That's
with,
good.
I think we had five. We had at least five Americans with passports. Then we had two really good Americans with Tyrone McCoy, the assistant coach at Ulm, one of my best friends. We had Anthony Grundy, rest in peace. We had oh no, we had also Castle. Castle, he had a Bosnian passport. We had like six. We had like six Americans. Our coach he was an American guy,
Yeah.
Don Beck, and we had like 6 or 7 Americans with passports. Like
Right.
our Germans hardly ever play.
Right.
We had a Bosnian national team player as well. Another one. We had a Czech national team player.
Yeah.
It was sick. It was really sick. And so I was there that year, and it was just so easy to live there in a city which is totally focused on basketball. The crowd, we played like most of our games in like this little school gym,
Mm.
just filled to the
Yeah.
rafters. Um, and then we would play in the what is it called, the EMS Halle, the EMS Halle, like the convention center before
Okay.
they built you guys those two big ass gyms there.
Right.
And just always sold out as well. And it was just so easy to concentrate on basketball, knowing that everything else is taken care of. And that's a very underrated thing when you think about what team you should go to. It's
Yeah.
not just the dollars and cents, but the situation as well.
Yeah. 100%. I think each basketball player only has so much bandwidth. And so, like, wherever that bandwidth has to go, that mental energy has to go, it's going to take from something
Yeah.
else. And so, like you said, if you're worried about stuff all the time, like, that worry is going to translate to your, like, how focused you are.
Mhm.
Or, yeah. And so, I'm very appreciative of it this year, and it's been an absolute blessing. So,
I mean, why do you think Ricky Paulding stayed there for
right.
48 years, right?
It's a
So,
he has murals. It's
yeah,
crazy.
that's ridiculous. Come on,
Like
man.
LeBron.
Come on,
murals.
man. And that I've seen that nowhere else in the world, and I've traveled quite a
Yeah.
bit, and that's just
Yeah.
sick. One thing I noticed about this season with you is that you're very consistent. Like you've I think I saw only 6 games where you didn't score in double figures. You're not way up there scoring 39, 40, but you're not down there scoring
Mhm.
6 usually. You know what I'm saying? So you've been very constant. Why do you think that is, that you kind of like found your niche and you're just rolling with it?
Mhm. I think this year I have a kind of like a auxiliary role to a very incredible point guard.
Mhm.
So when you're playing off the ball and you're gonna get some play calls, but not a lot. it's one of those situations where you have to be aggressive in your moments. And I think what I'm most consistent in is not necessarily like, okay, maybe the scoring and those things show up like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it starts with I'm consistent in my aggressiveness every night. Like I'm going to be relentless in my opportunities. And as the season's gone on, I've had to learn when to not tone it back, but really pick and choose. Because kind of my efficiency has gone way down. I've kind of been in a little rocky moment these last month or so. But even in maybe you're not shooting well or something like this, if your aggressiveness is consistent and you're consistent in trying to get those easy buckets, maybe you get a steal in a score, maybe you get an offensive rebound, that's where you can really see very consistent numbers game after game. Like you're going to do your job every night. And that's what I really try and do. So that's kind of, I think, where that consistency comes from.
But I mean, I watch a lot of the games on TV as well. So when I watch you, I mean, you and I had talked like right after you first got to Oldenburg about doing this interview, and it just ended up being right now. But so of course I paid more attention to you when I watched Oldenburg play, and what I noticed is that that aggressiveness is always there. Like you said, just it's always there, and you do a lot of things that don't get. As a former coach, I look at the game different than a fan would. Right? The fans see the scoring and things like that, but I see a lot of things that you bring to the table that don't get don't get shown in the stat sheet, you know, and that's the sign of a good player that is fulfilling a role, that no matter who the opponent is, no matter if you're having a bad shooting night or something like that, your mimic, your body language doesn't change. The way you defend doesn't change. I don't see like you slouching or anything like that. Like you play hard, you play tough nosed, and that doesn't change no matter how the game goes. You know?
Totally.
So that's a testament to you, man, that keep that up and really like old heads or people that know the game, they see it.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. And you know this too, like I think my rationale for that is if you don't do those things and then you shoot back, like in something you can't control, like you shoot poorly, you're gonna be at risk for people really getting frustrated with you, with your organization, your teammates, because you can't control whether you're hitting shots every day, every game, but you can control, like you said, those playing tough, being physical, being in the right position, and it's been a journey for me, especially this year. Like with our system, it's very detailed, and we have like great veterans and guys like Max DeLeo who embody that as well.
Right.
So it's just been nice to be able to learn from that, and like you said, be consistent in those things.
Let's move over to social media. In the past, I would say 5 to 10 years, social media has exploded where players are taking their own brands. I mean, that wasn't even a brand, wasn't even a word when I was playing, and taking it into their own hands, you know. And sometimes I think, as an old head, that it can be distracting. I think that's every old head thinks, like, what are people doing TikTok dances on my practice floor for, you know? But in general, I am very much a player advocate. Like, if it's good for the players, it's good for the game. And one thing that you've done is you've taken that, and I think you've done something very positive with what you're doing with social media, is whereas you're explaining to players what it's like to play overseas. How did you first kind of have the idea to do that, and was it an easy process for you?
Yeah, I think the idea stemmed from the uncertainty and kind of the shock that I had when I came over here. Because like you said, you can prepare in as many ways as you imagine, but you're not going to really be ready for it. And so kind of what I thought is like, yo, if I can offer some sort of value that maybe makes someone's transition easier over here. But even further, there's principles that I'm learning here that are applicable to basketball players in the States, you know? And for me, it's like, if I had this big European basketball journey and it doesn't impact one person, like for me, it was all for nothing. And like, okay, I had a lot of cool experiences, but it didn't impact anybody. And so that's kind of where like my heart on it is. And like you said, it is a very fine line between focusing on social media and like pushing your personal brand, whatever that is, and not letting it be a distraction. So like I have a lot of good people in my corner and a consistent conversation whenever I'm excited about maybe something, like some piece of content got more attention or X, Y, or Z. The conversation always circles back to let's keep the main thing the main thing. The only way that I'm able to create content is because I'm doing my job as a basketball player first. And so it can be a bit, I can sometimes have moments of insecurity where I feel like, maybe people are thinking I'm not as locked in as I should be. But it goes back to that same thing when like Damian Lillard starts rapping and everyone's like, quit, stop rapping, focus on basketball. It's all a way to pigeonhole the athlete into being one-dimensional. And I think a multi-dimensional person is a multi-dimensional athlete. And I think the more you can improve yourself as a human, the better you're going to be at your sport that you're in.
Good point. I mean, let's be honest. As a professional athlete, you of course have a lot of downtime. You have time where you can, once a season, after the first couple of months, you start to get in a rhythm. You start to like, I just saw your one of your last posts. Like you have a routine that you follow, and it's kind of monotonous at times. So you have some downtime where you can do different things. Some people use that time to sleep. Some use it to play video games online. Some people use it to communicate with their family back home or whatever they do. But of course, nobody can tell you what to do in your free time.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody's going to expect you to be thinking 24/7 basketball. You have to have some kind of outlet. You have to have some kind of thing that makes you, that keeps you. And like you said, if you're multifaceted off the court, that brings something also to the court as well. So, of course, there's for sure times where you think like, am I doing too much?
Yeah.
Right? How do you keep yourself grounded? The circle that you probably have does it, but how do you keep yourself grounded that you don't overstep that line?
That's a good question. I think for me, the moment I feel any sort of emotional pull towards something outside of basketball, then I very quickly self-regulate, self-check it, because I'm not saying I don't care about my social media presence or whatever, but for me, it's so auxiliary, and it's like I could post a piece of content or make some video, and I'm just doing it because I like to do it. And there's no like the moment I feel an emotional pull to where it's affecting any part of my normal life, then I immediately, like, that's when you'll see like a period of like 4 days I won't post anything, or like 5 days I won't post anything. And so it's like this self-regulation process and this self-awareness, checking myself if there's any sort of emotional pull towards something outside of basketball. In the same way, if I'm playing so much video games and I'm thinking about the video game while I'm at practice, maybe you got to chill out a little bit. But you have to be self-aware in those moments and regulate all the time.
Yeah, that's the thing is I mean, I know you've got a fiance, but she's not there right now, right?
Yeah, she had to go.
So it's, especially for a lot of athletes that are alone, if you don't have that in you to focus or refocus sometimes, then it can get out of hand. And especially if you don't have your family there or people around you to kind of keep you grounded. I notice it myself. I've just started this social media kind of stuff about 2 years now, and there are times when I think, wow, I'm doing way too much. I've got to feed the beast sometimes, but I feel like overwhelmed as well. But yeah, I mean, it all depends on how you use your time.
And you hit a good point there. Being alone is a whole different animal because your thoughts can go unchecked. If if you don't have dominion over your thoughts or have good people that you're reaching out to daily, it can go very interesting ways. And I think that's one of the things I would say to like anyone about to play overseas is be prepared to be alone, and like that journey of learning how to be alone is a journey in itself. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I saw that you and your brother are working on a docuseries on TikTok called Ride, the story of Trey
Yeah.
Drechsel. How did that come about? And is your brother like there often, or how you guys get that going?
So he's not actually my brother. Like I call him my brother.
Okay.
But I met him out here. His name is Max. He's from Heidelberg. He reached out to me.
Okay.
Or a little outside of Heidelberg. I forget the little town's name. But he reached out to me like, hey man, like I like to. His dream is to make a platform where athletes can like show their story. And so he was like, hey man, like it'd be cool if I was able to get like in your day-to-day life and we can really document this and show the real emotions and reality of what playing basketball is like overseas. And so he came, stayed with me because I have an extra bedroom in my apartment. He stayed with me and was able to film the cup, and we got him like a media pass. And so he got to get all the emotions on camera of having, like, I don't know, if you're from Europe, you understand how big these cups are, but the cup was hosted in Oldenburg. And he could get that whole like scene around the city and everything. So it's going to be cool because what I like about it most is like there's a lot of raw emotions in there. There's like me FaceTiming with family after our semifinal win, and so yeah, it's going to be cool. I think just because of the real emotions that get shown.
What is planned for that? Like how long of a series is it, and when is it going to start rolling out this week, right?
Yeah, it'll be a 3-part YouTube series. I think the first video will be this next weekend. Yeah, we've gone back and forth on it. We have like a massive amount of video, like
Right.
when he was filming for 3-4 days, it's just a huge mass. And so you have to kind of get it down to
density.
Yeah. And like, what do you want to explain to people? What do you really want to like, what do you want the storyline to be,
right,
so that people can get the most out of it? So that's kind of where we're at right
that's
now.
Pretty dope, man. And I love that about modern technology. Take this interview for instance. I probably would have never gotten to meet you hadn't it been for social media.
Yeah.
But like, okay, I'm like old as dirt, and there's no way that I could have documented my travels, my experience overseas to maybe show somebody later. I mean, I'm not walking around with a big ass like beta thing like filming. Like now we got the phones, you can film everything, right? So I kind of missed that about my career, that I couldn't have documented more things. I write, so I have things written down. But it's more for me than for everybody, And I think that's pretty cool that he would do that and kind of start that. I think that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing it because I know the atmosphere in Oldenburg, and during the cup, I mean, you could just feel it through the TV, and so I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like what you said about documenting is that's kind of why I started my YouTube channel too. It's like you can't explain it. Like, I don't know if you have kids or anything, but like you can't give them the full experience by just telling them like, no, seriously, like the refs left the gym like running away. Like I can't explain this to you. Like, so I think that's more or less the reason why I started my YouTube channel as well.
Hold on. I gotta comment on one of the viewer things. Lent or not. First of all, my name is Sean, but I appreciate that I was your favorite player back then, because I know of maybe one other person that said that, because I had a pretty shitty year that year. So if I was anybody's favorite back then, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. So back to the interview. Speaking of fans, do you have any crazy fan interaction things not necessarily just in Oldenburg, but just period. Any kind of weird stories. You think about it, I'm going to tell you mine
Okay, okay.
because it has to do with Oldenburg. I have a stalker, or I had a stalker.
Oh, wow.
Little did I know when I was playing in Oldenburg, there was a woman who I hope she's not watching right now, but if she does, she knows who
Probably
she
it.
is. She probably is. I had a woman who worked somewhere in the health services. You know, everybody has a health card, and it just so happens that I was a member of her health agency, and uh,
Well,
she definitely broke major laws, but she contacted me. She got my address, and this was years later. I was in Jena. This is about 4 years later, and I was in Jena playing my last season, and I get a letter in my mailbox
yeah,
from Oldenburg. I open it, it's this lady, and she tells me, she writes this long letter, handwritten, everything, um, and tells me she actually admitted how she got my address. Like it's nuts. And I mean, I could have just gone straight to the police
right.
with that, but
She went to the
data protection laws just broke it,
right.
right? And I mean, she was nice about it. She wrote and stuff. She wrote me a couple times. I never wrote back or anything, but she wrote a couple times because I was just weirded out by it. But yeah, that's the power of Oldenburg.
Crazy. She went through the healthcare databases to find you. That's wild.
Data protection laws
Yeah.
just don't.
I think my story is a lot different actually. In Poland, we we in the playoffs we struggled and we got swept, kind of upset. We were the 3 seed. We got upset in the first round of the playoffs, and we had some super fans like go on the road. We were playing in Warsaw. Went on the road, and you know it was a knockout game. We lost, and I remember like I'm most other guys like just went to the locker room. They're pretty upset, and I'm upset too. But I wanted to like go thank the fans like that made the trip. So I'm like shaking these elderly Polish ladies' hands, like shaking them like thank you. They're all crying. It's a lot, like people live and die for their club, especially the super fans. So I'm like saying thank you for the season, blah blah blah. And then I turn to my right, and there's like a couple like the middle-aged dudes that love the club, just straight up fighting with security guards, like just mad. I'm talking like full out, boom, boom. I'm thanking these 80-year-old women, like consoling them while they're crying. I look to my right, full-fledged fist fight because they're so upset that the team got swept. They're just taking it out on security guards. I'm like, I need to go to the locker room. Like, too much.
Yeah, don't jump in the middle of that. You don't want no part of that.
Nothing good comes from that. So I was like, I didn't see it. I'm going home.
Hopefully, I mean, this is your early in your career, and hopefully you'll play for a very long time. What do you think? What do you think you want to do when you hang it up?
That's always a good question, and it's actually like something that maybe I think about a little too much.
You can never start. It's never too early to start thinking about that, man.
Yeah,
Really.
but sometimes I feel my emotions like pulling towards that in terms of like it's an anxiety, like
Yeah, I know what
because
you
you're
mean.
so removed that you're like, how am I gonna like integrate back in? Am I gonna be like way behind? Am I gonna but for me, I think that's another reason why I've kind of started my social media journey is because I would want to transition into like personal development stuff and how I can help, young athletes through emotional development, um, athletic development, and be a sort of
Mentor.
yeah, but an elevated basketball skills trainer. Like I want to be a skills trainer, but I want to help elevate your mind. That's going to like translate to
Right.
a lot more than just your sport. Because I think
Right.
basketball and sports in general is an incredible teacher of life lessons and an incredible way to instill characteristics that translate. And and for me, that's kind of where I feel my passion, and even the way I'm growing over here. Like, yeah, I'm improving a lot of basketball, but I'm getting experiences that and being pushed in ways that's elevating me as a human.
Right.
I think more than anything else, and I want to be able to like give snippets of that back to the next generation of athletes. So
I can appreciate that. And if you ever need somebody to talk to about kind of streamlining your thoughts about after career, because I know someone, her name is Julia Rock. I've actually had her on as well. She's great, and she specializes in basketball players.
cool.
She's
Cool.
a career advisor, and she's incredible. She's really, really dope. And if you ever want to talk to somebody about that, because she's helped me
Yeah.
in ways that I didn't think were possible, and asked the right question, and then got on me and told me, like, definitely my warmest what do you say
Recommend.
testimonial for her. She's fantastic. But like I said before, it's never too early to start thinking about that, because like I know, you're one injury away.
So
You're
true.
one injury away. But okay, man, you pretty much hit the shot at the buzzer for me. I got 5 phrases at the end, or phrases or words. You tell me the first thing that pops up in your head. Okay. Oldenburg fans.
Faithful.
Best thing about living in Germany.
Money on time.
Uh, D2 to overseas.
Journey.
Your happy place.
Ooh. Coffee.
Yeah, I see that in there. That's a common theme when you're making the coffee.
And my fiance. I gotta say my fiance.
That came real late. That came real late.
She watches this and hears coffee before her. Then
she probably knows. She knows.
Yeah.
What's next for Trey?
Ooh. Playoffs. I think this is gonna be a little bit longer, but figuring out how to stay confident when things aren't going how you want them to. And I think that's my next step as an athlete and as a human, so that when I don't play how I want to, or when life doesn't go as I want to, my reactions aren't so critical. I think that's what's next for me.
I can tell you, as a former player, as a former coach, don't be too hard on yourself, man.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Don't be too hard on yourself. I mean, we all are all creatures of habit and perfectionists in some way, if we reach this level, of course. But you have to realize that you have gotten to this level.
For sure.
Yeah, you want to maintain that, of course. You want to get better, of course. But it's not like you're just crap.
Mm-hmm.
One bad game, one turnover, something like even 2 bad games is not the end of the world. And you are here for a reason. And your confidence is the main thing that can never waver.
For sure. Totally.
All right.
Totally. Good.
So that's my old head advice to you.
Old head advice.
Trey, man, I'm done, man. Get on with your day. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your time with us, and giving some real great insights to your life, and also what you're thinking about for later, and just your mindset, man. I think is really special. So I wish you all the best for the rest of the season, and playoffs are special in Oldenburg, man.
Yeah.
Just like the Cup, playoffs are special.
Yeah.
So rock it, and I don't know, but somehow I think you'll be in Oldenburg longer. That's my wish. That's my thought process. But of course, it's a business like any other, and every player has to do what's right for them. But I think you're a good fit for the city, and for the league.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, Sean. This was a blast.
All right, man. We'll be in touch.
Yep, I'll see it.
So, teammates, another one in the books. The first early morning live that I've done, because I'm on vacation. I think that was a really good one. I think Trey's he's a really good dude, and I really enjoyed not only interviewing but also watching him on the court. So I'm very happy that I got to have him on here. So that's it for me for today. I'm pretty sure I will have another one on Wednesday morning. This will probably be a repeat of the one that didn't work 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, that I had to kind of cancel. And so I'm really excited about having her on. And yeah, Serena, the only female coach in the German Bundesliga, assistant coach. And yeah, I'm really pleased to have her on again. We just have to figure out the time, but I think it'll be on Wednesday morning. And yeah, and then next week I've got another two locked in while I'm still on vacation. So I hope those of you that are here for the whole time, thank you very much. Those of you that just came for a minute, thank you also very much. And I hope to see you all on another episode of the Eurostep. That's it for me. Stay healthy. Hold it out.